What's up, Grassroots World? I'm Chris Logan.
I'm Ernie Barber.
And we are the Flagrant 2. Coach, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just getting back from Christmas, eating too much, and watching a lot of basketball. Looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, definitely an action-packed, filled week we've had. We were traveling back and forth, the both of us, from the city to Tulsa to the Tournament of Champions.
It was fun.
Really fun. Definitely some high-level matchups in there, high-level players. Just an exciting, week for the state to watch some of the best go against the best. I mean, you can't really mimic that, and it's a great event. And then, I know we both were at some college games over the weekend. I went to the Sick of Sickle Cell tournament or showcase right before that. So, doing what we normally do, and that's trying to give you guys as the audience the most, in-depth basketball analysis in the state. And I think that's what we pride ourselves on. And to do that, you got to put the homework in. So Coach, right off the bat, just jump into something maybe you think that
I would say, too, and I'll add to that, I think that's a good point, is we know the players, and it's not just the big-name players. We know a lot of the players. And the teams that they play on in the summer, it's different than just showing up and interviewing at the end of a game somebody that played well during the game that's a big-name player, right? So this is a lot different than that. So, no, I'm a lot to talk about, and I'll just kind of start talking through some of it with Tournament of Champions, right? Let's start there, and we'll get into some of the others. I know Mustang, they had a tournament. There's some other things we'll want to cover as well.
Definitely.
Couple things that I without a doubt, the best matchup I saw over the Tournament of Champions was the Dale Owasso game. I mean, I think everybody would agree on that, right? Montnati had the big, shot at the end, 40-point game. I don't know that one of the things that stuck out to me and during that game is I didn't see anyone step up for Owasso outside of Montnati. Montnati and Jax Kerr. Jax did some things early.
He was in foul trouble. I think that limited his minutes.
Yeah, but he made an impact. I mean, definitely made an impact in the game. But outside of that, I didn't see a whole lot, and that was one of the things that stuck out to me. And then on the other side, Dayton. One of the things I noticed with him, and I think those two, and I would put. In terms of players in the state, Dylan Werlick impressed me huge this weekend. Both, his inside-outside game, not forcing shots. No. I think one of the things that in that Dale Owasso game that really stuck out to me, that Montnati is a tough matchup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'7". It's almost impossible to keep him off the ball.
Yeah.
And when you do match up with him, he's going to get the shot that he wants typically because he's going to shout over you.
Yeah, he's a tough shot maker in general.
Correct. He wants that situation,
Loves
right?
it.
Forsyth, in terms of his game, what I've watched him play over time, and obviously this game was a tighter matchup and a more difficult matchup. But one of the things I saw from him this weekend, did a great job early. He shot a lot of free throws.
A lot of free throws. 28 free throws to be exact.
Exactly. But one of the things that, and I'm not trying to be overly critical, some of the things I noticed was he turned the ball over a little bit more than I normally am used to seeing him. He usually has never turned the ball over, and I think it's because of that pressure pushed up, and he would try to dribble penetrate where maybe he shouldn't. Just some things like that. What I really love about when you play top-level teams in matchups is you really see guys become who they are.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because that pressure is what makes you push to your limit, right?
Yeah.
Where you're uncomfortable. And sometimes I saw both Montnati, I even saw Montnati, he had stretches where he didn't shoot well, right? He was shooting a lot, and he didn't shoot well, and then all of a sudden he hits that big shot at the end, which erased everybody's thoughts of it. But I would even say, he and his coach's father would say there were times there where, could have done some things differently. But what I really liked about it, best team, Edmond North, no doubt about it. I mean, Edmond North solidified themselves as the king of Oklahoma in my estimation. Dylan Werlick should be in that same conversation that we always have about Montnati and Dayton. He's in that same level, in my opinion, in terms of in Oklahoma basketball.
Yeah.
Montnati's a sophomore. Dayton's a senior. and Dylan's a senior, so they've earned their stripes. But my thing is, Montanati is. I still think that this year is going to be really tough for him to win the gold ball. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. It's not a one-man team. It's a roster. Mm-hmm. But I will say one of the things that they're going to have to – other guys are going to have to step up. Jack stepped up and Jalen stepped up, but I really feel like other kids got to step up on that in that roster for them to be a serious threat to Edmond North. Edmond North was – I mean, they've got men on the front line.
Yeah. Well,
you and I talked about this.
Men on the bench to back up that front line.
Correct.
That's their biggest.
Deep.
That's one of their biggest things is the depth on them.
And the one thing that really stuck out to me too, and I want to give a shout out to him because I just think if I gave my own personal player of the tournament, I think Dylan obviously was superb, and there are a lot of superlatives for Dayton and Jalen as well. But Tatum Ridge, that whole weekend, did everything right to help his team win.
Yeah,
he was impressive to me. A lot of coaches, I think, if they're not on him, they need to think about him.
Yep.
He does everything well, and he guards the best player on the other team. I mean, he just gets out in transition well, makes the right pass, knocks down shots.
Yeah.
He just does everything well. I was really, really impressed with him. I've seen him play over the years, so it's not like it's the first time. But I've seen him grow, since I've been watching him the last couple of years, and I really, really, really like his game. Did a great job, and hats off to him. College coaches, those that are listening, remember the name Tatum Ridge. I think he's a fantastic guard and can help teams win. So.
And I'll just go back, to that Owasso-Dale game. I think that the reality is the last few minutes lived up to the hype in which we talked about.
Correct.
The first part of the game or three-quarters of the game, it was kind of an anomaly-type game.
Yeah.
With one star player shooting so many free throws. And by the way, I saw some people saying like that he really was doing a great job of drawing those fouls.
Yeah.
The one thing we always talk about with Dayton is the cerebralness of his game. So he realizes that, hey, my team, they're in the bonus early on, 4.5 minutes left. He's great at initiating the contact to get the contact. So, and that's something that you see in advanced, older, you're talking about high-level Division I players, and even NBA players play like that.
Correct.
Where it's essentially they're kind of dribbling into you, but then with their forearm, they're making it look like you're being bumped off to get that foul call. So he did a good job in a game where I know he wasn't shooting well. He wasn't shooting well from the field.
No, he
wasn't. So what did he do? As a great player, he knew I have to get my points some way. So I think he did it he did it in the right way, really, to be honest. He did what helped his team stay in that game, and for all intents and purposes, they were up at the end and almost won it.
Yeah, if that call, the controversial call, and I'm not going to get into any of that. You know what? They had opportunities to get stops. They didn't do it.
Yep.
And you could look at missed free throws. There's a lot of things that happen in that game. It's not just down to one call. You got to be able to adjust. But you're absolutely right. The one thing that stuck out to me is he did get to the free throw line. He did things to help his team win. Typically, I just felt like. In the games that I've watched him, these guys are all high school. These are young men.
Yes.
And the game, as they get older and as they play more basketball against better and better competition, they begin to learn the things of what to do and what not to do. My thought was with Dayton is I felt like in that game, Dayton's mid-range jumper where he can take 2 hard dribbles and go up is almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
He elevates so well against other guards that it's hard to contest him.
Yeah.
And he got out of that, and he got into some things with his back to the basket where I don't know that he's as comfortable. And he was drawn. He did get foul calls.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. And I don't. But there were some turnovers in there as well. And those are things that are uncharacteristic. That if I'm being critical, and I'm not, I'm just stating what I saw.
Yeah.
Some of the things I hadn't seen before. So, but I do think it's a great opportunity for Dale. And you never like to lose.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in that game, somebody had to lose.
Yeah.
And we picked Owasso.
Oh yeah, we got every pick right but one.
Yeah,
the Weatherford Crossings game was the only one we got wrong.
And I'll get into that here in a second.
We got everything else right down to the champion. But back to the Dale and Owasso. I mean, the anomaly. Montanati. He shot a ton of threes too. I mean, I didn't even realize it was that number till the end.
It was like 6 for 22 or 6 for
something like that. He shot a bunch, but the reality is, he did what we talked about it in our TOC preview was that there's no matchup for him.
No.
So
in the state, really.
No, there's no one. That's what I mean. That's what we even said in that first one. There's it's not just in that tournament or just against Dale. There's really not a matchup for him and anybody. And what he did was still elevated himself to hit a huge shot at the hugest moment. And to me, that's the shot of the year currently. I mean, we're early on in the season. That's the biggest shot right now. And to knock that down against Dale is what
it was huge.
It's what he is. I mean, that's why he's a top 10 kid in the country, because he lives up to the moment. So for me, regardless of how the first part of the game went, the ending was excellent.
Yes.
And we got to see two of the best players in Oklahoma go head-to-head. I thought it was a great game, great environment.
Yes.
It
was exciting. It was the most exciting game I've seen in a while. I mean, I've seen some exciting basketball games over the years, and that game had it all.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out, because we talked about those two, I want to just hit on a couple guys in that game that I thought did play well. Deacon Jones for Dale had a very good game.
Talked to him after the game.
And underrated. Not many people mention him. He played very well. He was tough. He had some good cuts. He was doing some reverse. He had some reverse layups. I
love his game. I love the kid's game. He exemplifies everything that you love about basketball.
Yep. And of course on the Owasso side, Jax Kerr, I mean, I think he only played 16 minutes in that game.
He didn't play very many minutes. He had, 12, 14 points in the game?
I want to say he had 5 blocks in 16 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was to me the thing that stood out to me the most about Owasso was that Jax Kerr is now becoming a formidable force in the post.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to need that. And some of the stuff you said that Dayton wasn't able to do, that's the versatility that Owasso has. They have length. And it's not just Jax and Jalen.
Oh, yeah.
Cody Lecklider was doing well. And, I mean, he's athletic, gets blocks. It's a lot of length, and they can switch a lot. So it creates some matchup. When they're locked in on defense, they're very good. We talked about it. They're absolutely, if that rematch happens, they absolutely will have to get some other guys to step up on the offensive side
absolutely.
And knock some shots down. But you know what? This is what it is early in the season. It's a building process.
Correct.
They've seen now what Edmond North is capable.
What the level is.
They've seen what Edmond North is capable of, and now they got to adjust. And I'm sure that they will make some adjustments.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and that's what makes this whole thing exciting. I feel like up to this point, Edmond North is definitely the best team in the state.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt. They're well-rounded. They play inside and out. Dylan is, we talk about Dayton and Jalen, but Dylan is on that level. And I think watching him, I of the top 3 players in the state, those 3 are easily on my list. But Dylan really, really impressed me. I would be really, really happy to have him at the next level because he plays within himself. He does everything the right way, and from conversations I've had with his dad, he's got some good things to look forward to at Wyoming.
Dylan is going to go to Wyoming and be a star.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is. He's going to be a star, and he would have been a star at a school in state here if they had taken him. I mean, that's just what it is. But you know what? We always preach the fit and who wants you.
Correct.
And if that's what Wyoming wants to do and they have a plan to utilize him and play him a little bit more on the perimeter and have him as a hybrid, I'm telling you right now, I promise you're going to hear about him next year.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be great because that's the kind of kid he is. That's why I call him Groundhog Day. He is so consistent. It's every game. He gives it the maximum effort, and it doesn't surprise me one bit that Edmond North is good. But fast forwarding to that championship game, I thought when Owasso and North matched up, I thought that Warlick and Jalen crossed each other out. I want to say Keontae Tramble really played well.
Yep.
And we don't just look at points. I mean, I think he had 13 points.
He played the point guard position
He played the point
well.
He rebounded it well. Yeah. He did. I mean, he probably would have had double-digit assists. There was some fouls that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he made some great passes in that game. Got him on the break. Had a no-look to Warlick with a big dunk. That momentum, big time play from him was when he hit the 4-point play.
Yes.
That was a huge momentum swing because Owasso had gotten it down to like 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
They were coming back, and that was a big play from Tramble. And so he really played well in that game. And I think to me that was the difference maker. And then, like you said, and the other difference maker I want to shout out, Tatum Ridge did excellent on defense in the first, especially in that first half.
Yep.
He really did well at getting up underneath Jalen and making everything a little tougher. In the second half, Jalen got going a little bit, but the other guy, and this is the luxury of Edmond North, Xavier Ross comes off the bench, and no one can stop him.
Yep.
He's too big and strong,
Yep.
and it's like Potts is punishing you, Warlick's punishing you, and you're getting worn down, and then they bring him in, and I mean, you're physically battered and bruised when you play this team.
Potts and Warlick as a front line between the two of them are grown men.
Yes.
They are grown men. They're college ready now.
Right now.
And not too many high school kids are.
And then you go, they could bring in Xavier and Jake Weaver at 6'10" if they really they have so much depth in the front court that they are going to be a tough matchup.
Yep.
And you better be ready to play against them because they are going to beat you up down low.
Yeah, you've got the guys. The next 5 on that team would start for any other team in 6A, most likely in
absolutely.
Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
Every one of them, almost.
They got guys that aren't even getting in. And I talked about it. I gave out my breakout players, and Tatum Ridge was one of my top guys in that. And also, it's to show that at Edmond North, it's so deep. Guys like him, they had to wait their turn almost. Like he has played a part for them, including last season, but it took him till his senior year to really get a significant starting role. And I think, and I put it down in one of my articles, like I really think it pays off dividends to him and his team.
Yeah.
I think his team is reaping the rewards, and so is he.
Yep.
And that's why now you're hearing more people talk about him, is that, you know, he was able to learn under those champion level teams.
Yep.
And when his time came, he's stepping up and doing all the intangible things that a championship level team needs.
I think the other thing too, and I'd say this, that people don't, the teams that get to go to the Tournament of Champions, the kids don't realize how fortunate they are, because the fact is they get exposure and an opportunity to showcase their abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what this is all about. You know, that's why we're doing the podcast. That's why you go play these. But you got to be a winning team, right?
Yeah.
So they're all fortunate to be on a winning team and a winning program, so they can showcase their abilities at the biggest times. And the Tournament of Champions, I'll go every year as long as I can walk. I mean, it's exciting. It's good. And it also gives opportunities, and I'll jump on a couple other guys here in just a second, other teams that participated in it. But it gives other guys that are making their way in to showcase their abilities as well. And so I know you've got some guys you'll want to talk about. One of the things I want to say this too, and I'm not being controversial today, I certainly love all the players I'm talking about. But I'm also stating some things that I saw that could be improved. Right, I would say Weatherford. One of the things that stuck out to me, and you know, Cal Furnish came out, and I want to start up on that because that was the
first game that we caught in person.
Because Edmond North and OK played a really close game, and shout out to OK. I mean, I think that's your Class A winner right there in state. I just
them or Caddo.
Yeah, those two.
It'll be tough, but OK.
OK's legit though.
OK's a little bit more deeper than Caddo.
Yeah,
but DJ Dill is that dude. So
yeah,
it's like, it's like you gotta.
I got him a full dose of him on my own, so I know exactly what you're up against, and you're pretty much just gonna have to take what he gives you because that's how good he is.
Yeah, and just because you just mentioned OK, I actually had Diesel Davis on one of my all Okie ball teams. I thought he shot lights out, but we mentioned him on the pod before this.
Correct.
That he would be the one that gets the notoriety from them because he's such a great shooter.
Yeah.
But they had some other guys. Ducky Swimmer was good. They had some guys step up, and I really think that they showed people like we hung with the best team in the state.
Yep.
And you're going to have to take us serious.
58-53 was that the outcome?
I mean
5 points. Come on,
way
now.
closer than anybody thought, except for those kids, because I know that they
believe in themselves.
They played their ass off. So I think that they
shout out.
I think that shout out for sure to OK.
Yeah.
I think they came, they brought their lunch pail, and they played their style. And I know maybe they didn't have some success in the next couple games.
Yeah.
But when you do it against the best of the best, like, to me, that shows what you're made of.
They came ready to play, so I was glad to see that at a Class A school, trying to take down Goliath, right?
That's pretty cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Definitely a cool way that they did it. But I know you wanted to hit on Weatherford and kind of what you saw.
So talking about the Weatherford game, Crossings Weatherford game, I was super excited for this game. One, I felt like matchup-wise, it was going to be really interesting because they're very different squads. Weatherford brings a lot of size, and then you've got a lot of Cal brings just this wizardry of how he plays, and of course Cal starting off like on fire. They went up 10-0 immediately, and I think Weatherford struggled to get back. They finally got back even.
Yeah.
And then
C.J. Nixon went on a run and got him evened
heading
up.
downhill. He brought the ball up. He kind of played point guard and really caused some problems there, which I thought was a great idea. I thought that was a good adjustment. I think it felt like, and I'm not going to necessarily speak for the players. It felt like they kind of ran out of gas a little bit because it took a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And then Crossings went on a 7-0 run, and it just reestablished going into that fourth quarter, and then they just were able to manage it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that stuck out to me with that game is, one, obviously Cal looked fantastic early on and played well throughout the game. But I will say that Weatherford had all that size, and I felt like they didn't utilize their length to their fullest capabilities there. I think when I'm talking about when there's ball movement, and you get a guard on you, that's 5'10" to 6 foot tall, and you're 6'6", 6'7", 6'5", what I was waiting for those matchups to be taken advantage of, and I never really felt like they were taken advantage of. I did love the idea of CJ bringing the ball up and then being aggressive going downhill.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they almost by default have to have CJ do that.
Yeah.
And if I was critiquing Weatherford, the thing that stands out the most to me is,
I know what you're going to say.
They're missing a playmaker, not and essentially in the lead guard position. So
Correct.
it's not that they need another scorer, because they are a team
firepower.
full of wings and forwards that can all score the ball.
Correct.
And really, they're almost unstoppable in a sense. But sometimes they just need someone to set them up for an easier bucket or get them into the set a little quicker.
Correct.
And instead, they have to utilize one of those forwards as the lead guard.
Yep.
And so that would be my only critique of Weatherford in that specific game. With that said, in 4A,
it was a fun game to watch.
That was a good game. And I think that also, like you stated, Furnish getting so hot. What did he have? 4 threes in the first quarter, I think.
Yeah, he went 5 for 6 in the first half, if my memory is correct.
Yeah, because I think he only had 3 points in the second half. He had 17 at half, and so they did a good job of adjusting. But he had done his damage.
Correct.
And that's where it was hard to fight back. And in that second half, I thought Phoenix, Woodson, and Cam Parker
played well.
Cam Parker was great in that game.
Yes.
The stats don't, like, he had 9 points, 9 rebounds, but I bet he had 5-6 blocks because he was blocking everything under there. And the same with Phoenix. At the end of the game, Phoenix did a great job of getting some post presence and getting some buckets when they were definitely needed. Right after they went on that run and Nixon had gotten them tied up, he hit that 3 and that reverse layup. So I thought that the bigs for Crossings really did well. And then I cannot leave out Matt Goodell, because he did a great job. I always talk about him when I talk about Crossings is he's the X factor. We always say they need Phoenix to step up to win the whole thing, but Matt Goodell is the X factor on a nightly basis. It doesn't matter who they play.
Correct.
He when he hit that 3 at the end of the third, it to me kind of sucked the life out of Weatherford, where they're like, in basketball, we always talk about momentum is one of the strongest tools or weapons. And Weatherford had seized it back. They tied it up, and it looked like, man, this game, here they go. And Goodell hits a couple shots, and it's like, that kind of, to me, cemented that game.
Yeah, no, he stepped up big, and you're absolutely right. What I love about the Crossings team is what they do with the players, what they do without the ball in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really one of the things that I was sitting here wondering, okay, are they going to make the adjustment? What I saw from Cal is Cal wasn't scoring in the first half off of making a move or, finding his own shot. He was playing within the offense, and then he would readjust or move without the ball and catch and then shoot wide open.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
And if you're gonna have any chance it beating or nullifying Cal, what you have to do is you have to guard him after he gives up the ball every bit as hard as you do when he has the ball.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. It's where he repositions and where he goes after he gets rid of it and moves without the ball that defenders lose sight of that, and then they struggle against him. So it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. Once Cal Furnish's feet are set, good night.
Yeah,
you're
it's
asking
a free throw.
You're asking for it. I mean, because he crosses half court, he has that type of distance on his shot, and also he's so good at. We talked about this before off the pick and roll. He's just. To me, he's the best player in the state as far as reading pick and rolls, and I would say Dayton is right there with them. That they're so good at seeing the play in their head before it happens and then making the dish.
They know where
out.
the guys are going to be, and they know they're looking for
true
those
floor
things.
generals. Those two guys.
Yep.
So that's that game, and Crossings ended up knocking out Weatherford, which was our only miss on that whole thing. Which not bad, by the way.
Yeah.
We picked that 3.5 weeks prior to the tournament, and we only missed one game.
Yep.
So I was impressed with those guys. We talked about
Talk about a little bit about Cabron Lewis.
Nathan Hale, I put Cabron Lewis on my first team, and I know they only won one game in that. They blew the doors off Metro Christian, who is a contender in 3A, and Cabron went for 30, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. I mean, he really put the team on his back, but also. And we talked about him too. DeMario Adams had, I think, 19 and 13 in that game.
Yeah.
The duo of them, that is a high-level duo.
Yes.
It's just on nights where they don't get help from the others. It's very hard for them.
Yep.
So the two of them have to be on every single night for Nathan Hale to be good and to win. But that's a team I promise you no one really wants to play.
You don't want to play them because if they have a good night. What I really liked about Cabron, I like his mentality. He loves to play. Mm-hmm. He's very competitive.
Yeah.
He's creative with the basketball. I mean, there's a lot of upside to him. I think one of the things I see, and when I think about playing high school basketball and then playing at the next level, is will he make good decisions at the next level? There were times where I saw him make passes that I'm like, nah, that probably you could have used the possession there. You could have done this or done that. But what I love, but that goes back to that mentality, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to squash the mentality, but you also want to that's that level of growth for him. But he has a huge upside. I mean the guy. I mean, when you can score 30 points in a Tournament of Champions weekend, I mean, come on. That shows an upside.
I mean, I think he averaged 21 and a half on the whole thing. He played really well.
Yes.
We talked about him on the Tournament of Champions preview. He was one of the kids that had a lot to gain out of this weekend if he played well.
And he did.
He played well. I mean, he did about everything he could do, and I was really impressed with him and DeMario Adams as well.
Yes.
DeMario, just a kid. I mean,
DeMario has got a huge upside.
You want to talk about college-ready body.
Yes.
He has a pro-ready body. That kid's shoulders, I mean, he's every bit of a 6'8", 6'8.5". I mean, and he's light on his feet.
Yep.
He moves
Runs
well.
the floor well, yeah.
Moves well. I mean, he has a soft touch. He's like we said, he's just a kid that he's just got to keep fine-tuning, and he is. He's definitely working on his game. He's definitely going to be a player for everybody to watch out for, especially this summer.
Love to have him on the roster, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people want him.
Yes.
Talked to a couple college coaches at the TOC that they definitely wanted to go up and introduce themselves to him. I would just say, looking over this, a couple guys that to me and I did that breakout article. We talked about Jax Kerr. I thought he had a great.
Yeah.
I think Jax Kerr is leveling up every week.
Yep.
I talked about it in one of my articles. I think Brian Montanati is the best thing that could have happened for Jax Kerr,
yes.
in the sense of, I know we were talking on there. I think we were talking to D'Angelo on X or Twitter about big men and the post and all that. And I'm like, to be a big man, you got to be a big man first.
Yes.
And I think that's what Jax Kerr is getting back to.
Yes.
Is like, he's an excellent pick and pop shooter,
yeah.
but him being an inside-out guy makes him a legitimate prospect.
Got his first D1 offer this week.
Yeah, San Jose State.
Fantastic.
I mean, so proud of that kid, man.
Congrats.
Great kid, too.
Yes.
So, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit about talking about these kids. But him starting to control the paint and rim running and blocking shots, and his footwork is definitely improved.
Yep.
I saw some great stuff he did in the post where I mean, one of his AAU coaches was with me for one of those games, and he was like, man, he's been working, and we see it. So him now being an inside threat, he's always been an outside threat.
Yeah.
So now he'll become the complete player.
Yes.
And so I think that that's only going to help Owasso in the long run. It's only going to help him.
I just feel like he's the one player that can change the whole dynamic of 6A basketball as he grows, as he is.
Yeah.
He is, because the other players we mentioned earlier are going to do what they do, but a player like him, as he just grows and matures in the role that he's in and that Brian has him, and I think Brian, you're absolutely right, Brian is the perfect coach for him.
Yeah.
He's just maturing and he's doing the things to help his team win. I can't say enough good about the kid.
Yeah, and then also just because we're throwing out guys, I think that just kind of broke out. We got to mention Denton Forsyth. Denton Forsyth. I mean, we know him as one of the top kids in that class, but he's really coming into his own now, and I'm starting to see some things that he's doing that maybe I didn't see in the past. Defensively, he was great all tournament long. He really is a strong kid.
Yep.
He loves.
He's actually probably a little bigger than his brother.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like he's probably got some room to still grow in height.
Yeah.
So I think that, the sky's the limit for him.
Yep.
But I talked about it is that, he's always going to be the number 2 option right now.
Correct.
But he's got 2 years at Dale.
Correct.
Where he's going to be lighting it up, and he's going to be option 1, and he's showing that he's definitely capable of that.
Oh yeah.
That game against Nathan Hale, he was on fire.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about playing with his brother is that he knows exactly where he's going to be. I mean, Dayton knows where everybody's going to be.
Exactly.
We talked about it already, but he went 4 for 4 in that game from 3, Denton. But it was his defense to me that stood out the most. And
I like him because he's tough as nails.
That's what it is.
Tough as nails.
That would be Denton Forsyth,
Yes.
and that's his brother too. But
Yeah,
that
both
would
of
be
them
him
are,
in
yeah.
a nutshell. Like
That's just being raised a certain way.
He's a tough kid, so I thought he was a big time standout. And I think the only team we haven't hit from that is Metro Christian, and they got 2 guys, 6'6" Jackson Sowards, the senior.
Mm-hmm.
He to me he is going to be a coveted guy in the college. Like he's under recruited majorly right now.
Definitely in the state too. I think
Yeah, I mean at his size and his skill set, he's one of those kids that I've been monitoring him for a while, and I kind of was watching the box scores prior to this tournament, and it's like he fills every category up. He's a 4 block guy, a 6 steal guy, a 7 assist.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes for only 9 points. 10 rebounds. I mean, it's almost like he's flirting with triple doubles or more on a nightly basis. And in that game that we watched, he had 19 points. I mean, he was smooth from 3.
Yep.
He has some great guard skills. He is a definite kid that in-state schools should be all over.
Yep.
And then the other guy was Troy Moses. So I thought, 6'9".
Yep.
He didn't have his best game in the first game we watched him, but the rest of the tournament, he dominated down low. I think he led the whole tournament in rebounding, I want to say. So he was a true big man, and he has some skills. I like him. He can step out and knock down the shot, long ball.
He does what that team needs him to do.
He does well.
Yep.
Wyatt Powell played well. He didn't play. He had a tough game the first game.
Yes.
He just kind of.
I think the whole team didn't come out. They were off that first game.
Owasso just pounced them. That versatility of Owasso kind of caught him off guard. Yeah. And Wyatt Powell played well the rest of the 2 games of the tournament. He's a great kid, another kid that I think a lot of D2s in Oklahoma should be all over Wyatt Powell. That definitely should be on him. Great guard. That's pretty much those teams from the TOC. I mean, we like we said, we called it. We did our picks. Yep. We had every one of them right. We had the champion right. Only missing one is pretty good when you're talking about a month out when we did that. So that's pretty much the TOC. I would just hop into a couple other things we saw.
Jump into some other
some other games I saw. So a couple days before that, I was at the Sick of Sickle Cell, which a foundation that they put on, which is a charity event at PC West. I think this is the 4th annual one.
Yep.
It's a showcase style, so they match up teams. One of the, if not the best environment game I've been to all year. It was right there. I mean, because the problem with the TOC is the venue is large.
Exactly.
So you're not going to get the full pack. Although
you're not right on the player.
No,
on the
although
court.
the Dale Owasso game had its crowd, and it was I tweeted out the whole city of Dale was there that night, and, and that's what we got to love about Dale. Mm-hmm. They're going wherever their team goes. But in that event, I watched 2 games, and it was Lawton and Grind Prep, and Grind Prep won that game, and David Wilson played exceptionally.
This came up, and I want to say this. Someone asked on social media a couple days ago, who's the best athlete in Oklahoma? And there are some other the players that were mentioned are really good athletes.
Yeah,
I know the players that were mentioned. David Wilson is the best athlete in Oklahoma, in my opinion.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
I just.
You're going to see guys like Dalen Fuller will be in that mix.
Yeah, and he absolutely should be in that. I agree with that.
It's just that with David Wilson, it's the fact that he's 3-4 inches taller than Dalen, and it's the shot blocking.
Correct.
The athleticism on the shot blocking is what will literally if you have your head down, you're going to look up and go, my God, this kid's got 6-7 blocks in a matter of like 1/2. I mean, he just anything that's in the vicinity, he'll get it on the top of the glass if he can.
He's a dog, and I love the kid. The kid's fantastic. He's a good player, but I like him as a person just as much as I like him as a player, and I love him as a player.
He was exceptionally offensively. We had talked about him a couple weeks back and said, hey, he didn't have his best offensive game, but he was great defensively. In that game against Lawton, he was good on both sides. Good. He was scoring from everywhere.
That's good.
He was blocking everything. He was great for Grind Prep. Cedric Dixon, we already know what he does. He's flat out one of the best shooters in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So he lit it up at the end to put that game away. They have an 8th grader, David Douglas, who almost had a poster dunk on top of somebody in that game. Bubba D is a kid that if you don't know him in the 2028 class, you will, I promise you, very shortly. He is a stud. The fact that he runs that team at the lead guard, he had a very, he's just a kid that's well beyond his years. I really like him a lot. That was for Grind Prep. Lawton, Tavares Deans is, and I talked about it, is probably my most improved player in the entire state. From where he came from last year
to this year,
and he was good last year.
Yeah, I remember.
Tough kid.
Yep.
For a 6'2", 6'3" guard, he's really physically built, strong kid. I said this when he lowers his shoulder, it's like a running back. He goes through there, and people are flying off of him.
I saw some of the highlights.
Yeah, and he finishes so well around the rim. So but what he's added is off the dribble, pull up, mid range, off the dribble,
rounding his game out.
Yeah, catch and shoot threes. He's well rounded his game out. He'll be a kid that colleges will be all over.
Yeah,
and then Panay Vazagote, who has, to me, always had one of the highest upsides of any kid in that 25 class because he's 6'4", super athletic. When he's in that mix, Dalen Fuller, David Wilson, Panay is in that.
Yep.
But Panay is also starting to well-round his game out on the perimeter, and he did a great job as well. So that's that game. The game of the year, because if we think Dale and Owasso had the last couple minutes was, game of the year type. The Millwood PC West game was from
that way all the way to begin,
all the way from beginning to end, and the atmosphere was nuts because it was coming off of the PC West versus Grind Prep girls game, which was the best girls game. A lot of people say in the state.
Yep.
Division I high major girls all over on every.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to shout out to the girls in this class. The senior class, they're loaded this year in Oklahoma. So shout out to the girls basketball in Oklahoma this year. We've got some of the best players in the country right here in our backyard. That's another thing. Maybe we do a thing on girls here coming soon. But anyway, shout out.
And that 2025 class in Oklahoma for girls is. It's second to none.
Yeah,
where we talk about like sometimes we talk about Texas having so many kids. I don't even care. The 25 class in the girl division is as good as any place in the country.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, depth wise, it's got high major girls all over. I know you even watched some of the Edmond Memorial. I was at the championship game, Edmond Memorial versus Lincoln Christian.
Yep.
And those girls, I mean, were balling. And Janiah Williams and Avery Gemstead, they were killing it. And I know they got co-MVP, but I know we're going off here, but I just got to give props.
Them a shout out,
when we see it, we got to give props to the girls when we check them out.
100%.
So anyways, going back to Millwood PC West, the gym was packed from the prior game.
I love that gym too, by the way.
Yeah, their new gym is very nice.
It's my favorite place to go and watch and watch guys play or girls play or whatever. It's just the atmosphere there. Is just
and just to hit on a couple guys in that game, Millwood ended up winning at the buzzer. It was 5 seconds left. It was the end of the game.
Yeah, that's a buzzer.
T.O. Barrett's little brother, Amari Barrett, who's a sophomore, I said during that thing, he had his coming out party. People that know, we knew he was coming. He was coming. He's been coming. It's just he's another one like Tatum. He was at Edmond North behind so much depth.
Yep.
So it's so tough for a guy like that, to sit there and not be able to play when you know how good they really are. So him going over to Millwood was a great, great thing for him. And I think he really came out, hit the game, had a follow-up to win the game at the end by 1 when they were down. He has a breakout player. Isaiah Wilkes was huge in that game. On-ball defense, we talk about, he's great. Had some huge threes at the end to get them up. I liked Chance.
If he's hitting threes outside of playing defense, it's
a wrap because that kid is so explosive.
Yep.
Chance Davis was great for them. He's just come over from the football team. Him and Zaire Fisher, so they added some depth. They are super guard heavy, that team. But nobody's going to want to play them because they're coached so well and they play so tough.
They play tough and hard, and I mean. Coach does a great job of getting his guys ready to play. I think that that team, anytime you have guard teams, and I would say there's a couple other teams. Booker T reminds me similar to that.
Similar style.
Yeah, like they get after you. They don't shy away from competition. They get after you and they push the ball. The pace is quick.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach Dorian Williams at Millwood. He has that team playing really hard. And then we'll just jump to PC West, and then we'll jump into our sponsor. PC West. Caden Rayfield did what Caden Rayfield does and expect is that, blocking everything that comes within him. He's if he's not the best shot blocker, he's 1A, 1B. I mean, with some other guys out there.
Yep.
He's definitely there. But because of what he worked on his perimeter game in the summer, he was able to do some mid-range stuff, some stuff finishing at the rim with his offhand that I really liked. Almost won that game for them, as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for that last-second shot by Amari Barrett. I thought Jaden Constance played really well. When Jaden Constance is good for PC West, they're very hard to beat because he gives them another guard. Jordan Warrior is another Groundhog Day kid. He plays tenacious. He comes. He makes smart plays, smart reads, knocks down shots. He's
the heart and soul of that team.
He is the heart and soul. And we've talked about Jeremiah Johnson from Edison being on ball.
Yeah.
If he's 1A, then Jordan Warrior, they're right there as two of the best on ball defenders.
They
in
relish
the state.
that competition. They're both really good on ball defenders.
So I thought that those were the standouts from that game. Great atmosphere, great showcase. I actually love covering that every year. Matter of fact, we need to get some more media. A ton of video and photography. Love all those guys that, by the way, that do all the video.
Yes.
Your KB Visions and Craig was on the sidelines.
Good stuff out this weekend.
3P Trey was out there. Those guys do an excellent job of putting these videos together, and I got nothing but love for those guys. But
it's more exposure for the kids.
Great event. So I know you want to hop into our sponsor.
Yeah, I'll do that real quick. I'll just say this: Nate and I watched a little bit of UCO basketball this weekend together. He came out to support Evan, my son. But I want to give a shout out to him, obviously sponsor of our podcast, Nate Logan of Logan Elite Basketball, training out of Destiny Christian High School in Del City, Oklahoma. He provides affordable group and individual training options every week. Does great training. If you've ever watched and sat in on his training or watched it, some of the stuff he does, he explains it really, really well. And obviously, it doesn't hurt that he's got a really good stable of kids that he's training. So, Logan Elite Training aims to help players develop their skill sets, basketball IQ, confidence, and ultimately help them become prepared for their current teams as well as the next level. I think he does a great job of that. Logan Elite currently trains some of the best high school and junior high players in the state. #1 player in Oklahoma, obviously Dayton Forsyth. Visit LoganEliteBasketball.com or message him on Instagram at Nate_Logan Elite for more information on how to get signed up. I would just say, if you don't have a trainer, you got to get with Nate. There's a couple other trainers I would certainly recommend, but Nathan's at the top of the list. And I'll just say this, my son will be going to him moving forward. I absolutely, he does a great job. He'll be working out with Dayton here soon, and he got to do a workout with Jeremiah Johnson out of
Oklahoma State
commit. So he enjoyed the workout. He'll be going back. But Nate does a great job for those that don't know, and if you need a trainer, hook up with Nate. You won't regret it.
And I would just say we appreciate our sponsors, and also we appreciate that we've had some donations come through, and they want to remain anonymous. And you know what?
Thank you very much.
We want to just say thank you because we talked about this in previous podcasts. Like, for these things to continue to go on, it takes the community support, and we really appreciate you guys out there who identified that and just want to see this continue to go on, because this does nothing but take Oklahoma to the next level.
Yes.
What I do with Okie Ball is one thing, but this is also another platform on top of a platform that can elevate us even out to a broader spectrum and to a bigger audience. So we really appreciate the sponsors and the donations and all that. That stuff means a lot to us, but it means a lot to the people in the state, because we're going to be able to continue to do some of this stuff.
Yes.
But with that said, if you're still looking for a sponsorship or anything like that, reach out to me and Coach Barber, and we'll get you lined up.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to piggyback on that, that's very well said, is that in order for us to continue to do this, and what you contribute, if you contribute by sponsorship or donation, 100% goes to us on what we're trying to do here. This isn't going in our back pocket. This goes into what we're trying to develop to help the kids get exposure, talk about the kids, do recaps, go to these events. Yep. Those sorts of things. It's not lining anybody's pocket. This is strictly about giving promotion and marketing these players, and it's fun for Chris and I to do. We certainly enjoy it and we love it. But we're passionate about it. But it's for a great cause, and it gives these players an opportunity to get talked about and get college coaches looking at them, whereas in the past they may not have known of some of these kids. Yep. Everybody knows the big name kids, but some of these other kids don't always get the shine. And our podcast and what we're trying to do is get shine for a lot of other kids to play at the next level. It's their dream, and we want to help them with that.
Yep. And then I just, there's a couple things like I had marked down that I had wanted to hit on.
Yeah.
And just from things that happened, we like to talk about what happened in the past week, and we talk about what I believe Okie ball and I believe social media is a great thing, and it's 100% needed in this market. And you have to have it as far as marketing your game.
Correct.
And it's just now the way of the world. All the coaches are on X or whatever or Twitter.
I'll never get used to that.
I know. I don't even like calling it X, but everybody's on there. It's a great way to market yourself. But there is a downside to social media.
Yep.
And this is what I wanted to address after what I noticed after this last week is that when social media can be a bad thing is that you see these videos of these kids, these interviews of these kids, these highlight tapes. You see them all over Instagram.
Yeah.
You feel as if you know them personally. And what happens is if your team loses, whatever, if something goes wrong, you want to hop on social media and attack these young men. And it's like, to me, if you've never met them in real life, it's hard for you to talk like that about these kids, to talk about, this kid is this and this kid is that and this kid's a showboat, this kid runs his mouth too much. And I'm just going to tell you for what I do, I know I don't know every kid, but I know a lot of these kids personally, and I know a lot of their parents personally, and a lot of these kids that were getting flack this last week and were getting talked badly about are great kids, and they come from great families. And I believe that you can't let a social media clip or some type of thing dictate when you stick a mic or a camera in front of a young man that's playing the game he loves and their adrenaline is going. It's competition. Anybody that's played sports has dealt with that. I mean, if I'm going to play sports, I'm not your friend while we're playing. And maybe afterwards, but I'm not your friend.
I was making comments over New Year's with friends of ours we were hanging out with for New Year's, a New Year's Eve party. I'm glad I didn't have the camera on me when I was a young kid. I did a lot of things, stupid things that probably would have never outlived, right? I mean, far as if we had social media, kids make mistakes. I think the one thing that people need to remember is, as parents and as adults, put the phone down. If you're upset about something, just put the phone down. Go do something else. Come back to it. You won't even be thinking about it. It isn't worth it. Kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to say things sometimes that later on they'll regret or maybe decide, I probably shouldn't have done that. But they're kids. They're 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. They're going to do and say things that us as adults may or may not do. And I will say, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, a lot of these kids are much better than I was.
Oh, yeah.
So
these kids are advanced now.
Exactly.
I mean,
they grew up in this age, and so they get it. But I would just say, I mean, we've got to we try to tell our kids to act this way or do this. I think the parents got to remember, and there's things that I have opinions about certain things that I don't always voice. Right? We all do, but keep it to yourself. It's not positive.
And exactly. I think there's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but when you go on social media and put it out for the public, you don't think that the kid doesn't see that or the parents. It's just unnecessary. You can look at some of these interviews of these kids that that people were talking about. That even I interviewed some of these guys after the games and listen to them. They do nothing but praise the other team. They talk about their teammates first. So we just don't want to judge somebody off of a 1-second snippet on who does what.
Exactly. I mean, again, when kids are 16, 17 years old and they do certain things, we're no different.
Yeah,
we're no different.
We don't want people aren't. You don't want anybody going on.
Don't label somebody based off of one situation or another. You got to look at the grand scheme of everything and recognize that kids are kids sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like we needed to address this because we have a platform here where we can get out to the masses and talk about things that need to be talked about. It wasn't from just this weekend. It's been going on for a while now.
Oh, Lord.
Anytime something happens, it's like we want to go on there and attack the first person that we feel like, if it beat our team or or the ref didn't get the call right or this, that, and the other. Hey, like he said, we all have our opinions, but they just don't have to go on social media. Keep it to yourself if you can, but get to know. All I say is get to know these kids before you judge them.
Yeah, and don't be so quick to trigger. when certain things don't go the way you think that they should. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
And then the last thing I just wanted to address is this transfer portal rule that has a lot of people up in arms. And I'll just say this. The kids did not make this rule or change the rule. Who did? Adults. So adults made this rule change, and then when a kid does it, we want to hop on and get onto the kid's case or yell, why is he doing that? Why is he was it the kid's fault or was it the adult that set the rule that way?
Well, I'll say this, I'll go into this just a little bit. OSSAA, to me, has gotten where they just got tired of trying to manage it. They don't have the funds to do it. They didn't want to do it.
A lot of paperwork.
So they basically just said, "Oh, we're not going to do that anymore." Yeah. So here it is. And but I don't think that that's the right answer either. Yeah. I think I have my opinions on it, but I will say adults have to lead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And not let. And I'm not saying the kids, have been screaming for this. The kids are going to do what they can do. If you let them do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? That's just how kids are. They're going to do what they can get away with or that they feel like is best for them.
Yeah.
Okay. My thing is I'm disappointed in the OSSAA because they just have left it open without parameters. And my thing is just like the NIL.
Yeah.
I feel like that hasn't been managed correctly either.
Yeah.
At the college NCAA level.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like the pendulum swings because we'll just leave the door wide open, and then everybody starts going, all these things start happening, and it's not necessarily good for the game or these players. And this is the one thing I would say about it, is sometimes it's good to struggle on a team and try to figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
It makes you better as a player.
Yeah.
It makes you better as a person. And I know it's hard to see that now because you want to play with your friends or you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. I mean, we all want to win. I mean, it doesn't matter what we do. In the program I run, I want to win, right? But I also have to step back for a second and recognize it's not about me and wanting to win. It's about these players developing and them learning throughout the process of things that they need to improve on or things that don't go their way. I would just say this isn't on any of the kids.
Well, no, and that was only my. That was just what I was trying to say.
I totally agree with that.
That was just my only thing I wanted to address on this is like. Whether we love this new thing or we hate it and we hate people joining new teams, that's not what I'm even talking about.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is going after the kid for making a move that an adult is the one who set the rule up. If the rule wasn't changed.
It's the adult's problem, folks, and for theirs to fix, too, if it gets to where it's not right.
So just like we said, if we're going to go and attack a kid on social media, let's not attack a kid for transferring schools. Go higher up where the rule was changed
at. Put the phone down and recognize where the decision is made. It's not the kid that made that decision. He was allowed to do it because adults said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and basically relax the rule or throw it out the window. And the kid's doing what he wants to do. I don't have a problem with that.
At the end of the day, it's their life. You got to let them live it.
Correct.
Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and they'll find that out. But the thing is, it's not for us to publicly go on there and bash anybody for the move that they make. If the rule didn't allow them to do that, then the move wouldn't be happening.
Yes.
So you got to remember that when we're talking about where it starts from. It starts up top.
It starts at the top.
So I just think those are a couple things that I wanted to address that I notified. And I'm like, we've got the platform. I know I heard from a number of college coaches, high school coaches, everybody hit me this last week talking about those two things.
Yep.
And I know it was kind of the topic of conversation, and we definitely want to address that because in Oklahoma, the one thing that holds us back from a lot of these other states is is that sometimes we tend to distance ourselves from each other, or we get more hate towards people, and it just if it's more like that in other states, then maybe I don't notice it. But I go around to a lot of different places, and trust me, I know it exists everywhere.
Sure,
but it definitely feels like in other states they rally behind these guys more than what we do here.
Yep.
And I feel like that's just what when we came together to do this podcast.
Yep.
And I certainly know when I put Okie Ball together, we want to build this state up and take it to the next level. So that takes the community coming together, and let's try to push this thing. And that's all media sources.
Yep.
I don't care if you have another podcast, if you cover basketball. I'm all for all these kids. People, this is the thing about Oklahoma, is people think that because I do something or someone does something or we do something and they do the same thing, that we're instantly opponents,
like we don't like each other,
like we hate each other. And when I hear that, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's nothing like that. It's just we each have our own way of doing it. And look, maybe I don't agree with the way you do it, but maybe you don't agree with the way I do it.
Sure.
But let's just respect the hustle and the grind and the work,
Yep.
and let's keep pushing the state forward, because I think that's number one when it comes to putting Oklahoma on the map and moving forward to get us out of just a small market. Let's try to get us out on to a bigger area.
I would agree with everything you just said. My thing is, and where it comes back to is that you get people that are competitive, whether it be in the transfer situation or a kid at the end of the game maybe does or says something that you don't like. It all comes back to we as people. And managing our emotions, having emotional intelligence, and recognizing what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And if it's not something good, it never hurts to sleep on it.
Yeah.
You don't need to say anything.
Yeah.
You just sleep on it, and
Yep.
then you have a little perspective, and then you can come out and give an opinion or whatever.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, if it's about the players and you're supporting the players, there should never be anybody complaining about that,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's really your message is, let's work together to support the players. You know what? If so-and-so has media that's supporting, Jalen or Dayton or, Dylan or Cabron or Cal or any of these players, we need to support that. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah.
Like that on social media, retweet that on social media. It doesn't matter who it comes from, retweet it, right?
Yeah.
I think, we've got to, as adults, see through all that and just say, hey, look, this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you brought that up, because
none of us are perfect. So
No,
we
no.
all make mistakes and this, that, and the other. But as long as the common goal is to push the state forward and advance it, I think that's where we all can come together and really make this thing even better than it's ever been before. So I just want to say, thank you to all of our listeners, and definitely thank you to all the love we received at the Tournament of Champions. I know both me and Ernie were there. We want to say thank you to all the people that came up to. We were eating at a restaurant, and the whole restaurant was coming up and talking to us, and it's awesome to see that. We really do love the support, and definitely if you see us out anywhere, come holler at us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We love to get to know people on a personal level, not just as a basketball player, and the parents too. You're raising these guys to play basketball. We want to support that, and that's where it all starts at home.
Yep.
We think we love basketball, but we like good kids as much as anything, and it's really cool to have kids come up and just chat with us.
And so before we go, just remind everybody to go and support, like our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our Instagram, like our Twitter. It just takes a second. Follow us on all of our socials so we can keep you guys plugged in with the latest and greatest. And you can check me out for sure. I'll be at the Bishop McGinnis tournament starting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So should be some great matchups there.
Yep.
And, we appreciate you, Oklahoma. Peace.